Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts football podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. As always, I'm Jeremiah, and I got a lot to talk about today. Very action-packed show. Every show is action-packed. And there is a video that was released by the Cincinnati police on Monday that included Adam Jones going on a tirade against the arresting police officer when he got arrested back in January 3rd. So I will talk a little bit more about what occurs in the video and pretty much my thoughts on the whole situation here with Adam Pacman Jones. And Johnny Manziel is back in the news. He deleted his Twitter account, but his last tweet will be very memorable, and I will tell you what he said in his final tweet. And this comes after a week that he says that he's completely sober and wants to get back to the NFL. So I will discuss my thoughts on Johnny Manziel. And there's kind of been like a theme this year. Well, I shouldn't say this year, but there's definitely a theme in the Super Bowl. And there is a certain amount of ex-Browns players that will play in the big game, and some other people that are affiliated with the organization, they will be in the Super Bowl. And I will discuss like what went wrong with these players and what went wrong with Cleveland, and why are they so successful with these other teams that are playing in the big game. And I got a very fun story to share with you guys to end the show. It has to do with a cab driver in Washington with a quarterback, his favorite quarterback, and who he talks about. And it's a story that you guys do not want to go anywhere for. But anyways, let's get started with this Adam Pacman Jones story here. Well, there is a video of Adam Pacman Jones that went on a tirade in the back of the police car that was driven by the officer that he got arrested by on January 3rd, which he is facing multiple charges for. Well, the video was released by the Cincinnati police. Adam Jones is just shouting profanities, racial slurs from the back of the car. He tells the officer, quote, "I hope you die tomorrow." And later says, quote, "You'll be out of a job tomorrow." Well, should Adam Jones be suspended? Should he be punished for this? And, the evidence is there. We've seen Adam Pacman Jones go through a lot of legal issues before. But for this incident, should it be under the personal conduct policy? Yes. Yes, it is. And an NFL spokesman told ESPN that this video will be part of the review of the incident under the personal conduct policy. Jones also, don't forget, Jones also didn't stop there. He repeatedly spit on the floor of the seat of the police car, and later tells the officer that he would spit on him if he could. And, according to court documents, Jones later spit on a female nurse that was trying to examine him. Wow, it just doesn't stop there. Well, Jones' attorney released the following statement on his behalf. This is what the statement from Jones' attorney says. Quote, "Adam Jones is deeply embarrassed and remorseful for his conduct and language after being arrested in early January. Mr. Jones has the most respect for law enforcement and difficulties police encounter on a daily basis. Adam loves Cincinnati and considers it home. He sincerely apologizes to the officers, the Cincinnati Bengals organization, and all other fans in Cincinnati." So In his statement here by his attorney, it says that he's deeply embarrassed, which is he should be. But he says he has the utmost respect for law enforcement. That didn't look like you respect the law enforcement there. And I don't care what you did. If you really think you're not guilty, why do you gotta go on such a tirade like that? Why do you have to do it? Well, in this video, Pacman Jones repeatedly asks the officer what he is charged with. And when the officer actually answers the question, and Jones acts like he didn't do anything wrong in this. Jones is all like, what happened in the incident when he first did it first? Like, what happened? Like, he felt like he didn't do what he was being charged with. And, Adam Jones, he's been a team captain. He was a team captain for the first time this season. All he wants to do is, all I do for the city, and this is what you're doing. That's what he said to the police officer. He said he does so much for the city, and this is what you're doing. Adam Jones, you play football, all right? That's a certain percentage of the city. A certain percentage of the city watches your team. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that everyone doesn't like the Cincinnati Bengals in Ohio there, but you're saying that the fact that you play for the football team makes it sound like you're doing a great service. And are you doing anything in the community? Are you doing anything in the community for the city? Well, the Bengals also released a statement on Jones's misconduct. We're deeply disappointed with Adam's behavior. The behavior in the video is not what we expect from our players. The club is aware that Adam has put forth his own apology. However, we also offer an apology to the public and our loyal fans. Well, honestly, once I hear all this, once I hear a little bit more of the details of the actual incident, I think the NFL should take action against Adam Jones. The evidence is there. This is something that you don't want to see your players do, and this is something that you don't want the public to see. You have to punish him. This is not how someone should act when you're an employee of a big organization. Let's just say this. Let's just say that I happen to go on a tirade like this, and I did what Adam Jones does, goes on a tirade. I yell out a lot of racial slurs, and don't get me wrong, I yell out a lot of racial slurs, a lot of things towards a police officer or any type of law enforcement, and if it's on video, I'm probably not going to have a job any longer. I'm probably going to get fired. So the fact that Adam Jones won't even get cut from the team would be surprising to me. And Adam Jones was a really good player for the Cincinnati Bengals defense. He really was. And I'll give him that. He was incredible on the field this year. But, time and time again, we've seen what Adam Jones is off the field, and he just hasn't been able to get right. I do think that the NFL needs to take action against Adam Jones. And, the NFL has proven that they have got it wrong before. But I think they need to get a third party involved to get this right. Because I feel if the NFL does the suspension or any type of thing, like a fine's not going to do anything. A suspension, yeah, but how many amount of games is this worth? I think they need to get a third party involved to discuss what is the appropriate punishment. Well, a grand jury for this Adam Jones case here is scheduled for February 10th at the Hamilton County prosecutor. Joe Dieters has said he would like to wait until the NFL responds before proceeding with the case. So what the NFL says is going to play a big part in Adam Jones' trial. You know, Adam Jones was this early. He was combative. This is what the court documents said, that he was this early and combative throughout the booking process. So he was being disruptive throughout the whole time. He didn't comply with any of the officers. He spit on the nurse. The video is there. We've seen how he acts. I do think the NFL needs to take some sort of action, but I do think that a third party needs to be involved with how these players act, and they violate the misconduct policy. See, this is one of the reasons why the NFL gets such a bad reputation. These are one of the reasons why the NFL gets a bad reputation from the public. We see players like this. You know, this isn't as bad as, you know, committing domestic violence, but, you know, what's going on in the world right now, you know, with police and all that. This is something that's not something that's going to be taken very lightly. You know, throughout this video, I can't say he was being kind of anti-police. I didn't really feel that vibe. I just felt like he was being real disrespectful to the law enforcement. And the fact that he was so disruptive throughout this whole process, I do think that he should get disciplined. Well, it's going to be something to see in the future, and you know, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals do cut Adam Jones. You know, if Adam Jones does this again, let's just say that the Cincinnati Bengals don't cut him, and Adam Jones does something close to this, I think the Bengals are going to be done. But I do think that the Cincinnati Bengals, I think for them to move past this, I think they have to cut Adam Jones. I think they do. You see the video. You've seen the court documents. Everything is there. I think you gotta let him go. You know, this is how he acts when he's a team captain on your team. Yeah, you gotta let him go. You gotta let him go. Well, I'm gonna discuss Johnny Manziel when I get back, and I'm going to discuss his Twitter account, which no longer exists, and some other things that he have said over the past week. We didn't get to it last week, but I'm going to get to it now since Johnny Manziel is back into the news. I will discuss Johnny football when I get back to Going to Me Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Are we soon going to see the return of Johnny Manziel? Are we going to see Johnny Manziel back into the NFL anytime soon? You know, Johnny Manziel did release a statement last week to ESPN saying he just needs one team to believe in him, and that he is sober, which I am really glad that he's doing. I felt that Johnny Manziel really needs to take some time away from football and get his life back together. And I'm glad that he's finally did that. And if he really is serious about football, I really do think that a team will take a chance on him. Remember, he's only 24 years old. A team will take a chance on him. But that's what he made headlines for last week. He was in the news last week because of that statement saying that a team needs to take a chance on him. But now, yesterday, he made news because he simply deleted his Twitter account. And yeah, it shouldn't be newsworthy, and maybe it's something that we shouldn't even care about. But the reason why that the fact that his Twitter account is deleted, or he deleted the account, has made news, because he tweeted advice to President Donald Trump on Twitter. He said, "Yo, POTUS, even when I know to stay away from the notification section on Twitter, it would drive you crazy. Lead a country and let them hate." That's what Manziel tweeted to Mr. Donald Trump there. And he did have a follow-up tweet that said, "Control what you control and let the rest fall by the wayside." So, the tweets quickly went viral. And even former White House press secretary Ari Fleischer even retweeted it. So it's not known it's not known that the fact that he tweeted towards Donald Trump is the reason for his deletion of the Twitter account. But Denise Michaels, a spokesperson of Johnny Manziel, said, "He told me Twitter is not a priority and he's trying to eliminate distractions. And as of Monday, Manziel's Instagram and Snapchat accounts are still both active." So, with Manziel wanting to make a comeback in the NFL, he wants to eliminate distractions. Okay, I can see that as possible. And when you gotta go big on Twitter, when you have to make your last week, man, he went really big. He went big. Well, despite what you want to believe, whether you agree with his political views or not, I'm not going to talk about that because this is not a political show. But regarding Johnny Manziel's NFL future, I think he has a chance to make a comeback. I think he does. And he's 24 years old. He's still young enough to have a team take a chance on him. I do think that, we've seen guys that haven't really panned out with their team when they got drafted as the first round, that they went to a variety of teams and they just couldn't hang. Like Trent Richardson, for example, he was with the Cleveland Browns for the beginning of his career. Then he went to the Colts. Didn't work out there. Then he went to the Raiders. They cut him in training camp. I think a team's going to take a chance on him, and I do think that will be his final chance. I really do think so. And I think if Johnny Manziel shows that he is capable of being an NFL quarterback and that his mind is right and that he is finally all focused on the game, that he watches film, does all the right things that a quarterback should do. And if he does that and shows that to an NFL team, I do think he has a really good future in the NFL. And we've seen what he has done in college. And I'm not going to say what he has done in college is going to happen in the NFL because that just doesn't happen. But, I think he honestly has potential to be a really good NFL quarterback. He just needs the right team. I honestly think he just needs the right people around him. And I feel like he didn't have that in Cleveland. And when you're in Cleveland, when you're in Cleveland, really not a whole lot to do. And I'm not bashing the city of Cleveland. I've never been there, so I can't really talk about it. But, when you're playing for a team that has not really had a lot of success and you're supposed to be the franchise guy, that's going to take a lot of pressure. And I do think that pressure really got to Johnny Manziel. He was supposed to be the quarterback for the future of this franchise, who haven't had a quarterback in I don't know when, who haven't made the playoffs since I think the early 2000s. When you look as supposed to be the savior of this franchise that hasn't had any success, that's a daunting task for anyone. Even when you're a 20, 22, 23-year-old coming out of the NFL draft, that's a daunting task. And I do think maybe that kind of plays some part into Johnny Manziel, but, Johnny Manziel was that guy before the NFL. He was that guy in college. I think that the fact that Johnny Manziel says that he is finally sober, he's getting his life back together, I think he has shown that he does care about his life. And he does want to get back to playing. And if he's fully healthy, I say why not? Why not sign John Manziel? What's the worst you can do? The worst thing you can do is just simply cut him. If it doesn't work out, just cut him. And you can get it. He's not going to cost a lot of money. So I would say why not take a chance on Johnny Manziel, see what he can do. And I know there's a lot of quarterback needy teams that want to see what Johnny Manziel can do. As for the team that I think should sign him, I don't know. But I do think that there is a team out there that should take a chance on him. Well, Johnny Manziel did play for the Browns. And when I get back, I'm actually going to talk about the Cleveland Browns and how their former players are now in the Super Bowl. And just to remind you, the Browns are not in the Super Bowl. So I will connect you from the Super Bowl teams, the Patriots and the Falcons, to the Cleveland Browns. I will talk about that when I get back from the break here at the Going to Meet Concepts Football Podcast.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, well, the first pick in the NFL draft this year, it is going to the Cleveland Browns, and talent and game-breaking talent and playmakers have been hard to come by for the Cleveland Browns since ever. The Cleveland Browns will be well represented in the Super Bowl, though. They will be well represented. I'd just like to remind you, they're not in the Super Bowl at all. They didn't even win a game until December this year. But Elias Sports Bureau reports that the Browns have set a Super Bowl standard before the game is even played. 5 of their former players are on the 53-man rosters of the Atlanta Falcons and the New England Patriots, which is tied for the highest in the league with the Washington Redskins. It's really pretty amazing to see that how many players that the Browns have drafted over the years, and yet they're not even part of the team anymore. It doesn't even go without the player. The players, I can talk about them all day, but disregarding the players, just also the coaches. Don't forget, offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan, he was in Cleveland for 1 year. And then the Browns let him out of the final 2 years of his contract. And he didn't simply want to be there. And why would you? They're not going to be any good. And don't forget that Bill Belichick was the head coach of the Browns from 1991 to 1995, and he looked like he was building a good team there. He even took them to the playoffs. But, of course, he was out when Art Modell moved the team from Cleveland to Baltimore when they became the Ravens. And the Browns did come back as a franchise expansion team, and they haven't been good since. So the 5 players on New England that were part of the Browns organization are Dion Lewis, who has put on a great performance in the playoffs. He was great in the divisional game against the Texans. And you got Jabal Sheard, Barvicius Mingo. You got Tyler Gabriel, who is with the Falcons, who had a really good year. And Alex Mack, who was part of the revitalization of the Falcons' offensive line. Lewis, though, he didn't really do a whole lot in Cleveland. He spent the entire year on injury reserve. Sheard and Mingo, Jabal Sheard and Barvicius Mingo, they were drafted in the first 2 rounds. And Sheard left as a free agent. He left as a free agent because why not? Mingo was traded. He never worked out there. Remember, he was a top 5 pick. He was supposed to be a pass rusher. Alex Mack was a first-round pick, and he left for free agency. And why not? You're in a culture that's a losing culture. He wanted to play for a winning organization, and now he's in the Super Bowl. This is the first time Alex Mack has ever been in the playoffs, and he is, don't get me wrong, Alex Mack was a stud this year as a center. He can be part of the reason why Matt Ryan was so good. He can be a reason why the Falcons' offense was so good because of the offensive line and the leadership of Alex Mack. Taylor Gabriel was an undrafted receiver, and he was just fell victim to the change of regimen, the regimen change, and that the Browns drafted 4 receivers. He produced much more in Atlanta than he ever did in Cleveland. And don't forget, when Taylor Gabriel was in Cleveland, Kyle Shanahan was there, so they were reunited this season, and Tyler Gabriel made the most of his opportunity. And I do want to point out one more connection. The Atlanta Falcons drafted Julio Jones in 2011, but they traded into the Cleveland Browns spot at number 6. The Browns thought they were getting a real good deal that will help them build a good team with a number of players in the draft, and they got a lot of draft picks. So Julio Jones went to the Falcons, and the Browns received numerous draft picks. That would be Phil Taylor, Greg Little, Owen Merrick, Brandon Weeden. We don't know how Brandon Weeden turned out, and Trent Richardson. None of those 5 guys are with the Browns right now. So Julio Jones is another Browns Super Bowl connection. The Browns could have had Julio Jones, but no. They just don't draft well. They don't know how to draft well. Like, why are the Browns so bad? Why are they so bad? They have the first pick in the draft, and I do think they should take Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett looks like he's a guy that is the real deal. And I do think that if they take a quarterback in this year's draft, they're going to miss out on quarterbacks in the next year's draft. And I do think there's some real good quarterbacks in next year. Jake Browning could be the number 1 pick. I don't know. It depends on how he plays this year. But I do think if the Browns start drafting right starting this year, I think they'll be in the right direction. But for one more story that I want to leave you guys off with, there's a cab driver in Washington there is a video that actually has gone viral. And it is a cab driver, he's driving around, he's driving around people in his car. One of the passengers seemingly, wanted to make conversation, ask us who his favorite quarterback is. And, this guy is a football fan. The cab driver, he does have a jacket. I think I forgot what jacket he was wearing, but it had I think he was wearing a Broncos jacket. And it had a bunch of one of the Super Bowl wins. And I'm not sure if it's a Broncos jacket or not, but he is a football fan because I can tell by the way he's talking. So, okay, so one of the passengers asked this gentleman who his favorite quarterback is. And the cab driver says John Elway. Elway was attending the presidential inauguration. He was in the Capitol for that, so that's why he was there. And the cab driver, he was just praising John Elway. It does say on the video, he's a Steelers fan. So the cab driver, who is named Sam Snow, is a Steelers fan, and he was asked who his favorite quarterback was, and it was John Elway. He praised him, saying that he's one of the best of all time. There's no one better than him. And, of course, one of the passengers who was with Elway in the cab say, What if you would have saw John Elway in the car with you right now? And he's like, what? And then he looked back, and then he noticed John Elway. And then, man, Snap Snow was so excited. He's like, man, I got to take a picture with you, man. Got to take a picture with you. So, yeah, that's a very good story I wanted to leave you guys off with. But, it's just a real good story because, you never know who you're gonna interact with and meet up. But, I just want to leave you guys off of that note because of the kind of show that I had to bring today. I had to talk about the Lonely Browns there. I had to talk about Manziel. I had to talk about Adam Jones. Those guys haven't done a whole lot of good the past 2 years. Well, actually, just the past few months. So I want to leave you guys on that note. But I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in to the Going to Media Concepts Football Podcast. As always, I'm Jeremiah. I will be back tomorrow. Actually, Anthony will be back tomorrow as well. And, we will discuss any type of news that occurred in the past 24 hours, or the next 24 hours, I should say, on the next episode. But I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. You guys have a good day and have a pleasant tomorrow.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.